Welcome to She Wrestles Truth and Grace. We invite you to join us in our conversation where we wrestle with how to understand and change our culture through the radical truth, love, and grace of Jesus Christ. Episode 2 is titled Why So Angry? A discussion on politics. Join our host, Jannette Sexton.
Thanks, Stacy. So, we're going to talk about politics and political discussion. And so my first question to all of you is, we'll just go around the room and then I want to tell me who you're going to vote for.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's so funny. Really, why don't you talk about how you decide how you talk about politics in your family, or do you?
So how close are we to the election, Jannette, if I could ask at this point?
2 weeks? Less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks before our presidential election. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up. I can go ahead and talk about the family issue. We talk about it a lot. Politics in general, is that what you said?
Yeah.
I have a family that is my core family that is interested in politics and just social justice. And my oldest daughter's a lawyer. My youngest is in college. So, and then my husband is very much interested in what's happening in the world and politics and all that kind of stuff. So we talk about it a lot, probably more than I want to sometimes.
And they all agree with each other.
Oh yeah, exactly. We just agree about everything.
Which means no, you really do.
I was gonna say, I do not believe that.
What about you, Stacy? Do you guys talk politics in your house at all?
We do not. Partly because I have always felt ill prepared and unintelligent about the topic. And also,
Oh, she froze. Did she freeze for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Susan.
fundamentally, we have found out over the years that we're different on our views, just across the board. What?
You were froze for a second, but then you came back.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Anyway, I don't know what you heard, but we, my husband and I have a lot of differences, and we basically, it would probably start a fight, in general, something small. So it's usually best that we don't try to discuss our views, but we've been trying to educate our kids a little bit more by sitting down and watching some of the debates together, where we're not really saying much, we're just watching.
Sure. That's got
How old are your kids, Stacy?
So my son is 15, and my daughter, unfortunately, is already 18 and out of the house. So what I'm trying to do with her is just encourage her to try to educate herself. You know, she's off in school down at Mizzou University. And so I've just been kind of constantly reminding her that to not vote means she's not sharing her voice. So just trying to appeal to her that way in hopes that she seeks more information and feels comfortable more than I do.
Cool. What about you, Susan?
My husband and I can talk about politics pretty well, and we've kind of grown in that whole area and our thoughts and beliefs about politics pretty similarly over the years. We've been married almost 29 years, but don't talk about it a whole lot with my children. My daughter is very passionate about what she believes about politics, and I like to listen to her, but it can be a little hard to engage sometimes. I think we're both getting better at it. She tends to be a little more on the liberal side of things, and my parents are very conservative, and so between the two, I just don't talk about it a whole lot at all. I kind of just maintain this neutrality of I'll just listen because
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like
Well,
Stacy. I feel unprepared to.
Yeah. In our family, my husband is very strong conservatively, and my two younger children have become a little more liberal, some more than others, and they have discussions, and I get anxious when they're having a discussion because I guess I don't want them to disagree with each other, but they're all very patient with one another. They're very much listening and asking questions, and I'm very impressed that they can be so patient, and I appreciate that. So how about Facebook? I'll just say this, in preparing for this, I was trying to watch political ads. I was trying to be on Facebook and read more different kinds of posts. And I just had to stop because it was so much. What do you guys think about the political climate?
Like what people, our friends post and things like that.
Yeah. Are you able to engage with them in conversation?
I personally, I'm sorry.
No, go
Go
ahead.
jump in. Go ahead.
I was
Stace.
just saying that I'm actually shocked that, and I will be the first to say that I'm not on Facebook very much at all anyway, but compared to last time, I see less from the people in my circle posting than I did the year before. So I don't know what that difference is.
Anything political at all? They're not posting political things too much.
I have not seen from the people in the circle of that I see mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like I was seeing a lot of things a couple of weeks ago, and I got on and was watching the things that I read I didn't care for, but then it did seem like people took a step back a little bit, maybe, and that there's not as much going on out there right now. I don't know. For me, anyway.
I've seen a few. I feel like people are very polarized this time and very strongly one way or the other. When I do see the post, I don't see a ton of them. You're right, Stacy, but I mean, my feed too, but it's very much in your face though. I think this election, maybe the same as last time, but just because of social media and just that we have so much information, ways for information to come to us, that it sometimes feels like it's a constant thing for me.
Yeah.
I'll see a little bit on Facebook. I have some friends on Facebook that want to post political things all the time, that's coming up to an election. But the thing that's interesting to me is that most of my friends are probably going to be Christians that are on there. And it's interesting to see that everything they post about the election is somehow tied in with faith. It's something about faith that it's gotten to where it's very clear that how they feel about their politics is very tied to what they believe about their values as a Christian. But I think it's also interesting that it might be completely opposite. That one person's a Christian and feels this way, and another person's a Christian that feels the complete opposite way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I had kind of wanted to talk about like single policy voters, single issue voters, and how they're used, I feel like, manipulated by politics. And
how so?
Well, let's say that you're pro-life. Let's say that you're gun control. It doesn't matter what it is. Here it is. And then here's a candidate, and they're going to say, I'm this or I'm this, whichever side of the issue. And either side of the issue is going to say, yeah, I'm going to vote for you because you're that person. But 95% of their beliefs might not align with yours, but because you've said, I'm going to stick with this one issue only, you end up saying, well, that's who I'm going to vote for. And I can see where politicians are coming out and saying, I'm this or I'm this, so that they'll get that vote, but not adhering to either the party or to the other principles that go along with those things. And so in that respect, I think all people, not just Christians, but are being manipulated.
I would agree with that, because
they're blindly following.
Yeah, I mean, for years and years, I voted Republican because I hate abortion. And to me, that was the way to vote. That was the way to influence laws and change in my country, was to vote for the Republican who stood up and said, I am for life. And I hated at the same time that my vote was reduced to that one thing. So, and then I've just progressively seen candidates come along, and as long as they say pro-life, they know they're going to get a certain segment of the vote, and they can do anything else, and it doesn't matter what else they stand for. And that started to bother me more and more over the years. I used to just put up with it and say, well, what am I going to do? You know, I'm sure not going to vote for that guy because he's going to promote abortion. So what am I going to do? But I'm starting to change my mind about that a little bit.
So we're going to put a link in Facebook to this great video that I watched the other day. Phil Vischer had one. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but about that exact thing, and kind of going through the history of Republicans and Democrats and what's happened underneath each one, and kind of some of the fallacies. So I'm not going to talk about it because he does a way much better job than I ever could talking about it. But what do we, you know, like 4 years ago, we were all together, and I feel like, am I wrong? We had great discussions about a lot of
Trump versus Hillary Clinton
versus third party.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I think we might have, between the 7 of us at the time, voted 3 different ways or more. I don't know. That's one thing. We didn't go around and take a poll and ask each other, how did you vote? But we were able to talk about, I like this and I don't like this. Go ahead, Roberta.
I remember.
Oh, Stacy.
Did we lose Stacy again?
Yep.
Oh, shoot.
Go ahead, Roberta, I guess.
Oh, just that we were, the last time this came up, I mean, it seemed like there were still some disagreements. I mean, I'm not talking about just within our small group, but just within the country, but it doesn't feel like it was as vicious as it is this time. And so, you know, that's just the word I can come up with.
I'm back.
Yay. So I'll just ask you this question while you're here, Stacy. What do you think when you see a Facebook post, if you see a Facebook post that says, unless you vote this way, you're not a Christian?
Offended. I feel offended because I think not everybody, I guess if you feel that you understand completely all the issues, you 100% know all truth, you 100% know that's it. You are 100% on all truth. Then yeah, you can say that to me. But who but Jesus knows all truth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like casting that stone, you know? Don't tell me that I'm not a Christian because I'm not on your bandwagon, or that I don't understand your truth. I think that's where.
Yeah, it kind of assumes that, you know, all Christians are only going to view an issue or a group of issues one way, that there's only one way to solve a problem in our society.
Mhm.
There's only one way to form new rules or interpret laws to promote Christian values, if that's what you're trying to do with your vote. And that we all have to look the same, but there is not one person in this country that's just like the other person. So how can we all solve a problem the exact same way? And none of these problems are easily solved. It's not as easy as a vote. It's not
No.
as easy as one candidate.
No,
Right.
no, it's not. But if they would ask me, I know the right way. But I think that it's easy to tend to get that feeling like, well, I know. And when I read a post or hear somebody else's viewpoint, it can be really easy for me to be like, okay, but you've got that wrong. Let me correct you.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
Well, is that the only response? Or so Roberta was sharing something earlier. It made me think about that, because our only responses to either change your mind or to walk away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I like that thought process.
Is there some other choice? I mean, maybe you're not going to change my mind, but shouldn't we keep talking?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's that whole agree to disagree thing. Like, I can still love you, but I choose, I feel like the better choice is this side and on this particular topic, but hopefully we can still love each other. If I
Can
think,
we,
sorry.
could we listen to one another as I interrupt you? Could
No.
we listen to one another? Because, so I tell you, like, you girls have heard this story before, but it means so much to me that I have a friend on Facebook who posts a lot of, I think, inflammatory posts. And when I read the article, and I usually read the things that she posts if I see them, and I come away like, oh, I disagree with that. The logic's not there. It doesn't make sense. And I want to tell her how it's wrong, but I don't, because I know that Facebook's not the place to do that. And I know that I don't have the relationship with her right now that I could to have those conversations.
Mm.
And the other day she posted something that wasn't as out there. And I read it and I liked the article a lot, but I didn't agree with the conclusions of the article about how to vote. Not all of them anyway. And so I thought, well, I could say I like this article, but I don't agree with the conclusions. And then I really thought about it and thought I should just say, I like this article and here's what I liked about it. And that I don't have to say all the things that I disagree with. And she posted back that, boy, how much she appreciated that I read it. And it might be me, but I read a lot of emotion in that response, like somebody listened.
Mm-hmm.
And why can't we do that, or why don't we do that more often?
Yeah, why don't we listen more?
I mean, one of the things I was reading was about how this whole anger and the idea of getting our emotions involved is actually good for politics. And it's because the more your emotions get involved, then the more sort of tied you are to that person and or idea or party or whatever. So not a lot of people who are the people we're voting on, I guess, are trying to say, listen to each other, because that won't tie us to them in some way.
Yeah, they'd rather have us emotional, right?
Right.
Because then we're going to go out there and vote for that guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm kind of like half robot sometimes. I don't like emotions. I don't like making decisions based on emotions. I hate being manipulated. If I think somebody's trying to manipulate my emotions, whether they're They're running for office, they're standing in the pulpit. I don't like it and I'm suspicious of it. So I sure don't want to see it on Facebook from my friends. That will probably turn me off. But I think Jannette's right. I'm trying to listen and ask questions. I'm trying to say, or at least give them a like. I don't know. I'm okay with giving a like if you.
You are?
Yeah. Just
I'm
because you
almost-
posted it.
Wow. Because I'm almost like, I can't like it because if I like it, you're going to think I liked it.
You agreed.
Yeah. And other people are going to see, oh, who liked that post? And they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know Jannette felt that way. And so, and that's terrible because who cares what anybody else thinks? But what I was thinking, and I don't know if this is right, that what if I read the article, I don't have to like it, but I could like it, but I can like it with a comment where I say, here's what I liked specifically about that.
Yeah.
Without adding all the, can you like some parts of something on Facebook without people thinking that means that you agreed with the whole article without saying, but I didn't agree with everything? Or does that matter?
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I guess
think
it
the
depends
reason-
on how much you care what people think of you based on what you like.
Or maybe not necessarily what they think of you, but do you want to push an agenda forward because you've liked something and people think that, oh, well, if Jannette liked it, then maybe that's something I should be looking into. That's kind of where my brain goes.
Yeah,
So
that's good, Stacy.
not sure that on my behalf, I think I hesitate on liking things or hitting that like button without some kind of explanation what I like. Like I like what you say.
Really?
What I like about that kind of insinuates that there was something I didn't like about it, but I'm not really sure.
I think I once posted something on Facebook a long time ago because I think, like you said, Stacy, with the last election, there was a lot more of this, or in past elections, I feel like I've seen more. And I think I posted something on there that said, I will listen to anything you have to say. I don't care. You want to put it out there, I'll listen to you. I'm okay with listening to you. So, I mean, but I don't want to hear a lot of hate. You want to tell me something? Sure.
Yeah.
I'll read anything. If you cared that much about it to put it on Facebook, it somehow you identified with it enough that you want to share it with me. Sure, I'll take a look at it. I don't care about that. But I don't. If you're just going to keep going on and on and on, if it becomes this huge soapbox and it's really long and I can't take it in about 5 minutes, probably not going to read it, truthfully.
Oh, if I can't take it in about a minute, I'm probably not going to
Right.
it.
Yeah,
and it depends on how much you post.
Like, right? It's so much easier to look at a meme or a quick article, the title of an article that says this thing, and then just think and go that far and not really dig into the article to find out if that's, I like to research things, I guess, and I'll read an article and then I'll go as far as like going on to the, shoot, I can't think of the name of it, but the disease, what's the Center for Disease?
CDC?
Yeah, the CDC, Center for Disease Control. I'll go on the CDC website and try to verify, like, is what you're saying true?
Yeah, no, I do that too. But there's so much that comes across Facebook that I don't feel like I have a valid enough time to go look at everything.
Yeah.
So it's got to be super, I guess, super quickly summed up for me to want to investigate more. I think that's what it is. I have to be able to read your content and get through it to feel like, oh, that's piqued my interest now.
I think even maybe more than anger this time, because I feel like over the past few years, there's been so much anger, but I'm feeling behind the posts is fear. Like, we have to vote this way. We have to, it's either we have to vote for Trump or we're going to become a socialist country. This is the end. Or we have to vote for Biden or else Trump's going to kill everyone or something, like.
Right.
And it's like, it's very much fear mongering, but I think that the people who say those things really are afraid.
Do you
Yeah.
think a lot of what's posted on Facebook is genuine fear? Like I have to tell people, I have to inform people. Nobody thinks they're being inflammatory. Maybe some people don't even want to be inflammatory, but it's so important, maybe they feel, to get this message across that. So
Yeah, that's what I think it is everyone feels that it's so important, whichever side you're on. It's funny because I've heard it from both sides that it's like, this could really change the course of the country. And, it's just something that's really important to people. So, yeah.
And is it really something that's going to change the course of the country?
well, I mean, Obama did change things up when he came in, and we have, the healthcare system we have now. That is a major change. It did
Yeah.
majorly change things.
But he didn't do it by himself.
No.
I mean, the president didn't come on and make that happen. He had to have congressional support.
Right. Definitely.
To do that.
Yeah. It's like we still have our checks and balances, I guess. And I'm talking more about government than I should, but I mean, we do, I think, still have those, like, no one person can come in and, I don't know, take over the whole country, but they can do some bad things.
Yeah.
And it can be
They
scary.
can definitely persuade a whole country.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, change is not always a bad thing. And just because it was a change that we didn't see coming or that we didn't expect doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, I was raised to think that socialism was bad, but I mean, we've got a lot of problems that need to be solved in our country. So there's a part of me that is willing to say, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. It won't look exactly like, that model that I grew up with. Probably not. I can't see that happening in America. It certainly wouldn't happen soon. So I guess I'm just getting more willing to embrace a new idea. So
And so what is the pivotal point, though, that is causing that? Is it because of all of the hate, anger side of things, or is it because, what is it that changes that in you?
Just because I've been alive this long and I haven't seen, like we just said, one man, one party doesn't greatly change the country a certain way here to the left or right. It seems like we just keep swinging back and forth. So I'm kind of hopeful that whatever good we do when we swing to the left, that'll stay. And then when we swing back to the right, we'll get rid of the stuff that didn't work, and we'll find some other good stuff over here on the right, and we'll keep that. And so we'll just keep going back and forth.
So go ahead, Susan.
No, I was just going to say, I don't see one party bringing us down.
I see both parties bringing us down. as the conspiracy theorist person, like I've heard my husband say this, and I agree. Are you voting for Demopub or Republicat? Like, it's just two sides of the same coin controlled by the same group. And I feel manipulated, and it behooves those people to get us to argue, to make us feel like we really had a choice when they're controlling the strings about, maybe not rigging the election, but saying, well, if they vote this way, we'll do this. And if they vote that way, we'll do that. It's like when you give your kid a choice between the blue popsicle or the red popsicle, he's getting a popsicle. He felt like he made a choice, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
So I don't know, that upset everybody's apple cart, but
no, I think that's true. And I think a lot of times when people, like, what do you guys think about that? Because people will say, well, that's just throwing away your vote if you don't vote red or blue. But is there a time in a country where you do put it somewhere else so that maybe independents, just to make the statement that you're not happy with the red or the blue. I don't know.
I think that's the only way to make that statement, that you're not happy with one or the other. So
Yeah, probably, I don't know, 20 years ago, I made the decision that I was going to vote my conscience. And that usually means voting third party. And I thought for a long time, you know, before that, I thought, well, that's throwing away your vote. But what does your vote really count for? Because I believe that we do vote, but I also believe God's in control and that God's going to do something no matter who the president is. And he allowed both candidates to rise to the place where they could be in office. And the idea of voting for the lesser of two evils was just like, I'm still voting for evil. Like when you say that, and that's where I came down from. Finally, my decision was I'm going to vote my conscience, and then, you know, let the outcome be whatever God wants it to be. And if more people would do that, because I hear a lot of people say they'd like to do it, but it's not going to work. So if all the people who said, I'd like to do that, but it's not going to work, would do that, we actually could do something.
Well, and even if you don't end up, the third party doesn't end up the winner, if there's enough of votes that are going a different direction, that will speak to people in charge, I guess. And, you know, you hope that eventually that would be enough of a voice to make some changes. I don't know.
Yeah. I can just hear all the voices, though, my friends who are like, no, there's, you know, like, you can't do that. This is so important. Yeah. And I think our society, culture, media has made us think that this is the utmost, the most important thing, the be all. This has to happen this way or else we're doomed.
Jannette, I just don't remember when I was a kid, faith and politics being mixed so much. And when did we become this country that thought that God was only going to work in this country through the election of our officials? I mean, is it that important?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know for sure, but it seems to me that it came about there was a time when Christians didn't get involved in politics, and they didn't get involved in like Hollywood and a lot of other things. And then the moral majority stepped up and was like, we've got to go in and we've got to legislate morality. Like, the country's going to hell in a handbasket, and if we don't do this. So the whole legislating morality, I really wrestle with that. On one hand, I think, yeah, you can't. People are still going to do what they're going to do, whether you make it legal or illegal. On the other hand, there were abortions before Roe v. Wade, but when Roe v. Wade happened, abortions really took off. And I had friends who got abortions that said, well, it's legal. And so the law became kind of their moral compass. And in fact, that's why I think that sometimes we fight so much now or get so upset about our politics, because that's become our new morality.
It's part of our identity almost for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Is that how it should be? Should our laws be creating our morality for those who maybe don't adhere to a certain faith and aren't getting it from a faith?
I think that, like, maybe because of how I grew up, I definitely felt a huge, like, I still think it's true. We're citizens. It's our right, and our duty to vote, to be educated, and do it, and then leave the outcome to God's hands and be prepared for whatever happens. But as far as that feeling, though, that like, if this doesn't happen, If this law isn't done, then I've let God down. I just don't think that that's true.
Yeah. Or believing some of the posts, it's like, oh my gosh, if I vote this other way, maybe I'm not a true Christian, or I don't know. Yeah, I don't think.
So I was praying about this, and God brought.
What, Jannette?
I was praying about this, and God brought to mind this story about from Luke, and Jesus is talking to a group of people, and he starts off with talking about, this is really good, about how there's a time coming that everything's going to be revealed. So that's exciting to me, that there is a time.
Oh no, we lost Jannette.
Oh no, right in the middle of what she said.
Every time.
I hope she doesn't talk too long before she realizes.
I know.
But I wanted to know about Luke. Hopefully she'll dial back in. So yeah, I don't know, that whole morality question with, is that the government and church kind of thing? Like, separation of church and state?
I don't know. If you're trying to force somebody else to adhere to a certain set of values that they don't want to, I mean, is that the way to promote Christianity? No. I just tend to think not. That's my thing. I get it. It's not everybody's thing, but.
Well, and that's what I think too is, you're just, what is our job as Christians in this atmosphere? I mean, what is our job as Christians anytime, but it's basically to love people. Like, that is basically, the commandment, the big commandment. And so to go and say things to alienate people seems the exact opposite, no matter what the issue is, the exact opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. And so it seems like that is harmful, that can be harmful.
It could be.
Yeah.
Do we have to let her back in somehow?
I don't think so. I think I made it so we didn't have to.
Either that, or she is on a monologue and has not figured out that she's not on. Yeah.
I hate this.
She might have lost her internet or, power or something. I hope not.
I hope not.
Maybe.
Hopefully she'll be back on in a minute.
Stacy, do you have any thoughts on legislating morality? Or is that
So this
something?
is where you saw me get real quiet, because it's not because I have an opinion that I don't fully, I'm not fully following. I'm not fully following what you're saying. So,
well, that's valid.
I mean, I bits and pieces of it I'm hearing, but I think I'm having all these questions, and so I'm not like not able to even voice.
I guess I just mean, like, some people would say, abortion is very wrong, and other people would say that is my right and I should be able to do it if I want to, and don't put your views on me. So and me trying to force it through by law to say that can't happen is forcing my version of what's right and wrong,
right? Okay.
To everybody, and saying this is the standard for right and wrong, and what you think isn't right. So
got it.
That's
so
what,
in that case, I think I'm probably more lean to what you said, Susan, about how is that being a Christian, or maybe it was Roberta, I'm not sure, but forcing your morality on someone else doesn't mean they're going to internalize it.
Right.
So
it might even engross some some dislike of it,
right.
Work the opposite way. Jannette.
Yeah, she's
back. I missed kind of what you were saying exactly, but I'm just thinking about one time there were these people across the hall from my husband in his apartment, and he was talking to them, and they lived together. They weren't married. They did drugs. They did a lot of things like that. And he led them to Christ.
Mm.
He didn't go over and say, living together isn't right. Doing these drugs aren't right. Here's these other things that you're doing that aren't right. He just
Right.
led them to Christ, and then he let the Holy Spirit talk to them.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so just thinking that we have to tell other people what the right and the wrong thing is. If they ask us, sure, if we have a relationship with them and the Holy Spirit prompts us to have a conversation with them, but trying to clean up the outside without cleaning up the inside is pointless.
Yeah. What
Well-
did Chad always say? Like, we're not in the business of the salvation business. I don't know if it was salvation, but just we're not in the business of deciding who's in and who's out, so we just love everybody. We want to hear your Luke story though, Jannette.
Yeah. So anyway, Jesus was talking to a bunch of people, and he said that, the truth's going to be revealed someday, which right now we're frustrated because all these political posts, what is the truth even? And someone called out from the crowd, "Teacher, please tell my brother to split the inheritance from our parents with me."
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus' reply was like, "Friend, why do you think why am I the judge or the arbiter of that?" And then he goes on to talk about don't be greedy. And he tells a story about the man who stored up his riches so that he could eat, drink, and be merry, and that he died that day. So he didn't get to enjoy any of his riches. But it always struck me odd that Jesus would reply, why should I be the judge or the arbiter of that, when I'm thinking, because you're Jesus. Shouldn't you be the one to tell us what's right and wrong? And as I thought about it, this is an imperfect comparison, but when your children are fighting, and they're fighting over whatever, a toy, whatever it is, and they come to you and they want you to make the decision on who's right and who's wrong. And sometimes you're like, well, work it out yourself. And sometimes you're like, so kind of frustrated that, if you loved each other, this wouldn't be an issue.
Mm.
Like, if you loved the one who's taking the item, let's say, you wouldn't be taking it. And you who are not getting it, can you just be confident in my love for you that you're going to be taken care of and that you don't have to grab that for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that maybe in context of us, that it's not that Jesus doesn't care, because I think he cares about everything, but he's given us minds to think. And it's not that he doesn't care about politics or he doesn't care about how we vote, but what he cares about most is that we're loving to one another. And that if we followed him, we wouldn't be having probably all of these arguments. Even though here's a Christian that says I'm this side, and here's a Christian that says I'm this side. But if we would talk and listen, instead of on the Facebook post or in person, instead of saying, I'm this side and I'm this side, we could say, oh, but I like this. And you could say, oh, I agree with this. Like, here's the things where we are the same, on the same path.
Yeah. That's good.
I
do like the story.
I was also thinking, I think I might have lost it just now, but because there were so many great points that you just said. Yeah, I might have to come back to that thought. Something about, nope, I lost it. See, this is what it's like hanging out with me.
The end of that chapter says, why can't you decide for yourselves what is right?
That's interesting, Jannette. Like,
yeah,
God's trusting us to make decisions. He wants us to make a decision. And it's probably just the fact of making the decision, just doing it and understanding why you're doing it, having some thoughts, being willing to change the next time you have to make that decision, just to make a wise decision is all he wants.
It's all
the best you can.
Yeah.
Insert my thought.
Yay.
There you go.
which was, this is where the fear comes in, is if I make the wrong choice, am I not going to be good with God? So if I make the wrong choice, and then if I tell others, if I push others in that same direction and it was wrong, that's not how I think, but I think that's what I feel others saying is that they are wanting to be on the right side of God.
Because God is
And
only
not-
voting one way, right?
Yeah.
Was that facetious, Susan?
No, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I think that's really valid, Stacy, that, they've believed and they've believed that God wants them to vote a certain way and they've got to get it right. And there's some fear there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if we could let ourselves off the hook a little bit about that, God's not going to be mad at us, if we vote the
Right.
wrong way, or if there is even a wrong way to vote,
I don't think there is a wrong way to vote. I don't know. I'd have to have a lot more proof than that one of these men is just that evil. But I don't think either one of them are, for the record. I don't think either one of them are evil men that are just going to completely ruin the country. Because I think God is bigger than that, truthfully.
Yeah.
And so after Jesus said, why can't you decide for yourselves what is right, he talks about if you're going to court, decide before you get there, because otherwise the judge is going to decide and nobody's going to be happy. And it kind of reminds me of, before you go to the voting booth, why can't you get together and talk about these things? Because nobody's going to be happy with how the election turns out.
That's true.
So if we could, I think we agree on more things. And boy, this is kind of I probably shouldn't even say it because it's opening a can of worms and we don't have time to talk about it. But I really thought about this a lot, that when you were talking about socialism, Susan, I feel like as we were growing up, we were saying, we'll give money to the church and the church will take care of these social issues. And I have to say that the church hasn't done a very good job of taking care of the social issues. And I have to say that's my fault too, because I just gave money saying you take care of it instead of me personally getting involved. And the younger generation that's really pushing for more socialist ways are saying, okay, the church didn't take care of it. The government's going to take care of it. So I'm just going to give you money and you go take care of it. And we know that the government is not going to take care of it. And they're doing the same thing that we were doing, which was you take care of it instead of me. And what it really takes is for all of us to get personally involved.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah, that's a lot harder than just writing a check.
Yeah.
Or just casting a vote.
Yeah.
And saying I did my part.
Yeah. So we're going to need to wrap it up. Do you want to have a couple of, we're running later than I wanted us to. So do you have a couple of anything that, what can we do? What should we do?
Well, Jannette, I know we talked about, when you see the post on Facebook, it's so tempting to just walk away and just shut it off and not get involved. And I probably think I shouldn't do that. And you've done a good job of modeling, staying involved.
One time.
One time. That's one time more than me.
Well, I just want to say, Susan, this is just a good example of why we should go ahead and comment, because I want to hear what you have to say. I value what you say. I value what all three of you have to say. And so we shouldn't, we shouldn't be afraid to share that opinion, but it's a little scary. I say as I never do. I like and I share.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or also, we don't have to publicly tell them our likes and dislikes about it. We could privately message them and just say, hey, I really appreciated that article. Here's what I liked about it. here's what I disagreed about it. I just wanted you to hear that. But because I think why I'm not on Facebook a lot is because I don't like the public forum of it.
Mhm.
For those reasons. Because
Yeah, it's like a street fight, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing, and we really didn't have time to get into it, but the other thing about listening to people is just listening to other points of view. Because if you become, I'm only going to watch this news, I'm going to only have these Facebook feeds, I'm only going to have this, then you begin to think that you're the only one that feels that way and you haven't learned about anybody else.
Mhm.
So we have a link to, we're going to on Facebook to Flipside, which is a news article that comes out, I think daily, that shows what both sides were saying about an issue so that you can read for yourself what both sides had to say and think about it so that you can be better informed and maybe be able to have a better conversation. Also, I think we also didn't really get a chance to talk about this, but the presidential election isn't the most important part. And there's a lot of other things on your ballot.
Mm.
And so we'll put a link where you can go to find your ballot that you can look at ahead of time and think through the issues and find out what's going on so that when you get in there, you're not like, what? Am I for this amendment or against it? I don't even know what it means. So that you'll know those things. Anything else?
I'll just say we're going to share that other article from what was it, Psychology Today or whatever. But I
Yeah.
wrote down a quote that was in that article, and it said, "Listening is an act of love."
Hmm.
Good, I like
Yeah.
that. So anyway, that's just part of what's in the article. It's really good.
That's really good.
Hmm.
Well, so today's podcast was an equally offensive podcast to anybody listening. So you're welcome for that. And
We're going to talk about our favorite shampoo.
yeah, we're just wrestling, and hopefully you'll wrestle along with us, and we give you grace, give us grace, and we'll see you next time.